A large and growing body of research supports the idea that animals have the capacity to be self-aware, express emotions, and suffer from mental disorders like anxiety, self-destructive behaviors, and unhappiness, just like their human counterparts. How this knowledge could help us and them is the subject of a new book, Animal Madness: How Anxious Dogs, Compulsive Parrots, and Elephants in Recovery Help Us Understand Ourselves. Written by my guest, researcher and historian Laurel Braitman. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, Laura, you've said your book and your career, Laurel, your book and your career actually were ultimately inspired by your dog, Oliver. What was he like?
Oh, he was wonderful and captivating and the most beautiful dog I've ever seen, and he was also completely crazy. He had debilitating separation anxiety. We couldn't leave him alone, or he would destroy himself or our apartment. He hallucinated, he had a high prey drive, he had a canine compulsive disorder. Really, he had all manner of problems.
And speaking of this, some people might say that this is anthropomorphism. Did he really have these disorders? And in defining anthropomorphism, projecting human perspective or characteristics on animals are objective. How can you tell if an animal disorder like Oliver's, it's not just humans attributing their idea of what's happening onto the animal?
Well, I actually think it is humans' idea of what's happening, and that's fine. I think that we can't not anthropomorphize. In fact, you can't really take your brain out of your human head and put it in a jar and then think about another animal thinking. So we'll always be one animal wondering about the experience of another. And when it comes to understanding your pets, actually you projecting your own anxiety or fear or what emotional state onto them and trying to understand what they're experiencing actually will help you help them. So I'm really pro anthropomorphism as long as it's done critically, because I think that actually no one is better than you when it comes to understanding your pet.
How could you help them? Let's just go with that. So by you saying, let's say my dog had this anxiety, how would that benefit you helping your pet?
Oh, well, first of all, once you recognize that they're suffering, then you can figure out what it is that their triggers are. And every dog is different, just like every person's anxiety. So in my case, my dog's anxiety was all about being left alone. He was a rescue. And so anytime we left the house, he really believed that he was going to be alone forever. And sometimes he would just devolve into the worst sort of panicked version of himself. And once he even jumped out of our house, and we lived on the 3rd floor of a brownstone. So that was traumatic and terrible. But to help him, we did all kinds of things that you would actually use to help a person, frankly, from psychopharmaceuticals to behavior therapy, trying to decouple the things that stressed him out, like getting our keys from leaving.
Things that would trigger it. What about the reverse? How does understanding an animal's mental health disorders help us understand and treat disorders in humans?
Well, what I discovered is that really almost everything that we know about the unhinged human mind, we learned from watching other animals first and from using them as proxies in efforts to understand human mental illness. So everything from how we treat infants who are institutionalized, we learned from rhesus monkeys in Wisconsin in the 50s and 60s. Baby monkeys need more than just food and shelter to do well. Even if they're kept clean and quote unquote healthy, they actually need affection. And so a lot of these studies went on to inform how we treated human infants inside institutions, so hospitals and orphanages. Everything from that to say, our psychopharmaceutical arsenal, Valium, Xanax, all of that came from other animals.
I know your book talks about these liver-flavored doggy Prozac, and I think the SeaWorld orcas being given Xanax to deal with separation from their calves.
Yes.
What do you think about animal pharmaceuticals? Do you think they're being overused, appropriately used, more research?
I think it's a conundrum, frankly, and it parallels a conundrum in human therapy, which is that the drugs can be deployed ethically or not. And if you don't fix the root troubles of the animal suffering, there's no way in the world that a orca mother should be separated from her calf. And giving her Xanax to deal with that, I think, is not the same as giving Xanax to a dog who is suffering from severe thunderstorm anxiety to the point where he will destroy himself or chew through a wooden door. In one case, the drugs are empathetic, and in the other, they're a Band-Aid for a situation that shouldn't exist.
Speaking of thunderstorms, give us a few tips on how to calm a pet. Do those lavender-infused pet treats actually work?
One thing that you can do to calm an anxious dog, particularly during a thunderstorm, is the prevailing knowledge is that you shouldn't comfort a dog when they're stressed. And actually, a lot of recent research shows that that's silly, that you should feel free to calm and comfort your dog when they're stressed out. You're not reinforcing that behavior. So feel free to comfort your pets when they're stressed out.
Tip. All right, Laurel Braitman, author of the book Animal Madness, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.